My name is Melissa Elliot. I'm Tuscarora. I'm from Six Nations.
And my name is Jon Elliot. I'm Tuscarora from Six Nations.
Yeah, we're part of this group. It's called the Spirit of the Youth Working Group. And basically, the history behind this is something that just kind of happened. That something that just kind of budded, and it happened all pretty quick. And everything since then has just been it's almost like it's continuing on. Everything is adding up, and it led us to the United Nations this summer to spread our word, our voices as a youth to the world and to our people and to the people of all these other different colors. So basically what started was the Unity Run that came to Six Nations about 4 years ago. They came to Six Nations and they ran and they rode on horseback to Six Nations, and it's a unity run and ride that started out west, and they did it as a wiping of the tears, and it was a prophecy that they had to retrace the steps of their ancestors and heal. And where they eventually, after years and years of doing this unity ride and run through their territory and all over the place, they ended up in Six Nations up north. And when they came here, we had a gathering of the elders and of the youth. And what we did was we created two documents, the Elders Declaration and the Youth Declaration. And when we got together, there was people there from all over the place. There was people there from South America. There's people there from all over Central America, and we were all there to gather and talk about the issues that we had, to just talk to each other and see the other Indigenous people throughout all of America. And what happened there when we were gathering there as youth and as elders, the elders were down the hill and the youth were up at the top of the hill, and we were all discussing all these things that we had to say, all these experiences that we had. And what happened was a fire was created. That's all I can explain it as, is a fire. We all got together and we started talking, and we just hit it off. Everyone was so passionate about what they were saying, so passionate about being Ongwehongwe, about being Indigenous, about their personal experiences, and it was amazing. We all had such a strong connection, and when we wrote this document, we put so much passion into it. It was 9 days that we gathered there, and afterwards, they said that the Unity Ride and Run. Oh, I'm sorry. They said that the Unity Ride and Run was going to be over, and as youth, we didn't want that to happen because we seen how much joy it brought to everybody. We seen such all the smiles, all the passion that it brought, and the unity that it did bring to the people that it visited. So as youth, we decided to take on this responsibility of continuing the Unity Run. And it was a huge responsibility. Me personally, I thought we would just get up and start running, and I didn't think there was much planning into it, but was I wrong? Yeah. We decided to take on this Unity Run, and there was only a few of us to plan this. And the first year, we ran from Six Nations, and we continued it on to Onondaga near Syracuse, New York, and where our central fire was. And the next year, the second year, which was last year, we ran from Onondaga to Akwesasne, New York, and it's in the border between New York and Canada. And then this summer, we ran from Akwesasne, and we took a long trip. It was about a month long to get to Virginia. And along the way, we had a big stop, and it was at the United Nations. It just so happened, when we created this document, that they wanted us to, somebody was talking about bringing it to the United Nations, these documents that we had. And it just so happened, I never thought I would be one of the people who brought it to the United Nations, but it just happened. It was like they called us and got in contact with somebody, and it just was like a ripple effect that happened, and all of a sudden we were out there at the United Nations, running through Manhattan at 5 in the morning, getting up to the United Nations and dancing our traditional social dance right outside the United Nations. That was awesome. That was awesome. Just standing there and dancing. Everyone was going by, they were looking at us, they're like, oh, look at the Indian, but we were just right into it. We were dancing away and just so happy to be there, that we were finally there. I think there was a lot of, and the Unity Run, as I must explain, is for the youth to come together and to spread this message, this vision of unity within our peoples. Because what has happened since colonization, since the white man came over, has been a lot of bad history, a lot of bad things that have gone on, a lot of bad things that are still going on. What has happened is, everyone knows what has happened. Everyone knows that we've lost a lot of our culture. They divided us into these different territories, and it seems like all this time we're separated. Nobody's together. We're fighting. Even on Six Nations, we're fighting, and all these things are getting in the way of our vision and clouding it. And we came together as youth, and we're like, no, we're not going to let this happen to us. We're going to stand strong and tell everyone, tell our communities, tell our elders, tell everybody that we want unity. We want to be together. We want this fire every day. We want it. We want to see a good community. We want to see us strong. We want to see our culture and our traditions. And I think that was a big thing at the Elders and Youth Summit that happened in 2004, is that fire was created, and we continued it. Every year new people would come, new youth who were doing drugs or who were doing partying, and they came and they finally seen what they needed was their traditions, was their culture, was their history, and they needed to be in touch with that. And I think that was one of our greatest accomplishments, was being in touch with that together. Every day we would run. We would literally get up really early in the morning, sometimes later because we would sleep in, but we'd get up really early in the morning and we would just start running. And we'd start off with a song. Everyone in a circle, we'd share our ideas, and then we'd start off with a song. And the runners would run with our staffs, and they would run around 4 times, and they would head off. And every morning we would do that. And every day we'd be running, and everyone would be tired, everyone would be sweating, we'd get back into the vans, we'd be red in the face, we'd be like tired, exhausted, legs would be burning, but we'd still be running, and we'd be running with that prayer in our mind for unity. Constant prayer, that's what it always was. Sometimes we would play our Ongwehome music, and we would, play and do, just do crazy stuff and have fun, but it was always with that prayer in our mind, with that spiritual being. And this document that we had, we decided that we were going to revise it because it has been 3 years, and we said it was a living document, so we decided we were going to revise it. And we started revising it, but we didn't really get to revising it until a couple days before we got to the UN, which was a little bit crazy, just a little bit. When we got to the UN the night beforehand, we decided that we were going to run late at night because we were going through Manhattan, and it was really dangerous to be running through Manhattan with all the cars, with all the exhaust, with all the people. So we decided to run from 11 o'clock at night, and we would just keep running till we got there. And while they were running from 11 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning, all through the night, sacrificing their sleep, and a couple of us were just sitting around and writing. We were just writing away, like revising everything, changing it up so that we could present the best to them of what we've felt inside of us. And we typed it up like probably a couple hours before we had to go on stage at the UN. So it was a bit crazy. It was a bit, we had the youth unorganized kind of thing going on there, but we got there and it was amazing. But there was some problems. When we got there, they said we only had 15 minutes here and then 10 minutes. So all in all, we had 25 minutes. When we thought we had an hour or so to do this and to present our ideas. And it was a real letdown because people thought we had this time. We could all go up there, all 50 of us, talk about what we had wanted to talk about, share our ideas and stuff. And they only said, well, sorry, you only have this time. But we got up there and we were all upset, but we were like, okay, let's just do this. Let's just go up there. And we went up there onto the stage, and we ended up being there for well over an hour. We were just, and they didn't even say anything. There was people there from there was some political people there from, I don't know, one from Australia, I think, and then another professor guy, and there was all these, people there who were from higher stature, and we got up there. They only had 15 minutes. We got up there, and we were there for well over an hour talking about this document and talking about the Declaration and our voices and our importance of our voice as youth. And about what we wanted to see in the future. And I'll just have John read that.
Okay. It is the Indigenous Youth Declaration, and the title is Kindling the Fire. We, as Indigenous youth, have gathered on the Haudenasaunee territory for 4 years to share our achievements and future prospects on peace and unity. We are the 7th generation, and we accept the responsibility for the prosperity of the next 7 generations and of our Mother Earth. Our ancestors looked to us to re-speak the words that once fell on deaf ears, and to stand strong as one. Therefore, as our leaders have done before us, we as Indigenous youth unify in order to rise to the challenge of continuing to wipe the tears of all nations. The Indigenous youth of Turtle Island wish to reach our goals and to share with the world peace and unity. We will continue to collectively gather all peoples to push our motion forward. The following statement calls for immediate action. Our collective minds and hearts hereby declare the following, a living document. 1. Voices of the Youth. We, as Indigenous youth of Turtle Island, demand that our voice be recognized and respected as equals. We demand equal representation and recognition at all gatherings and councils to network, debate, and to contribute to decisions on all matters affecting us and our communities. 2. Education. We, as Indigenous youth of Turtle Island, demand that historical truths be told. All books that are used in the education system will be rewritten to include the stories of Indigenous peoples and written from the perspective of Indigenous voice. Indigenous peoples have the choice to provide education which serves our best interests to preserve our culture for the coming phases. We will create educational, social, and recreational programs and opportunities to promote, encourage, and maintain healthy traditional lifestyles, which nurture our talents, whether they be traditional, artistic, athletic, or academic. All programs will be supported by our communities and by our elders. 3. Protecting and preserving language. We, as Indigenous youth of Turtle Island, demand that our children have opportunities to learn their native language as their original language. We demand that more high-quality programs be created and that funding be allocated to revive our Indigenous language. We demand that more high-quality programs be created and that funding be and language programs be made available to all Indigenous peoples, whether they live off or on reservations. 4. Treaties. We, as Indigenous youth of Turtle Island, demand that each and every one of our treaties be honored. We demand that a separate and unbiased commission be set forth to investigate all broken treaties. We demand that all negotiations and discussions between governments and nations be fair and respectful. We will assert jurisdiction over our lands and resources. 5. Discrimination. We, as Indigenous youth of Turtle Island, demand that discrimination against Indigenous peoples not be tolerated. We demand that all governmental policies, acts, and laws which discriminate against Indigenous peoples be abolished immediately. Nepotism will not be tolerated. We demand that all internal discrimination against youth, elders, and groups of people within our community stop immediately. We demand that all external discrimination against any other race, religion, or culture to be stopped immediately. We are all brothers and sisters on this Mother Earth, and we should be respected equally. 6. Respect of our culture. We, as Indigenous youth of Turtle Island, demand unrestricted access to our traditional historical artifacts, whether they are museums, private collections, or any other possession. Our traditional ceremonies must be recognized and respected by governments, school boards, business owners, and the greater society as equal to other religious holidays and practices. We will not allow our culture and tradition to be defined by outside or foreign influences. We, as Indigenous youth of Turtle Island, demand that media highlight the positive aspects of Indigenous culture, rather than perpetuate stereotypes. We demand that all news reports relating to Indigenous peoples accurately represent our perspective. Media blackouts will not be tolerated. We demand that governments support Indigenous created media bodies. 7. Colonization. We, as Indigenous youth of Turtle Island, refuse to be subject to any form of colonization. We refuse to allow all previous effects of colonization to pass on to the next 7 generations. All hate, resentment, and anguish ends now. We forgive all peoples who have damaged our culture, lands, and our people. We ask that all peoples on Mother Earth join us in this healing. Finally, 8. Our Mother Earth. We as Indigenous Youth of Turtle Island demand that our Mother Earth be protected at all costs. We demand unrestricted access to sacred sites. Sacred sites will be maintained in their natural original state. We demand that all environmentally destructive behaviors stop immediately. The health and well-being of our people and our ceremonies is dependent on the well-being of our Mother Earth. We as Indigenous peoples must re-establish our connection to the land. As guardians, we implore ourselves to take action to protect, preserve, and restore Mother Earth and all of creation.
So that was the document that we put together for the United Nations, and I know the major reaction we got to that was demand, the word demanding. And we talked about this for a while, and a lot of people have said, well, we shouldn't demand anything, but the way we saw it, I don't know, it was a different way when we were writing this. What we saw was that we have the right to demand that our language be preserved. We have the right to demand that discrimination against our people stops. We have this right inside of us to demand these things that people should have as a right. They should, as a human being, they should have this right to be respected wherever they go, or respected, or their history be portrayed in a way that is not biased, is accurate, and not be taken out of the system. We have this right, and by putting it in writing, like I believe that if we didn't put demand, we wouldn't have gotten the same reaction we did from the United Nations, the people who were there. We went on 2 occasions. We went once with everybody, and then a few of us came back. A few of us came back a couple days later to the youth assembly at the United Nations, and we shared our words with all the other youth from all over the world, and the reactions we got from them was amazing. They came up to us, they shook our hand, they said, wow, we never heard about this before, I didn't even know that you guys had to go through this, I didn't even know about you. And they were like, wow, that's so similar to what's going on here, we just want, and they were supporting us, we shared contacts, we hit it off, people were talking to us, and they said, yeah, this is not right what's happening, we should all come together and help each other. And that's what we need. That's what we need, is for people to have that inside of them, to not be biased, to not hate each other, is just to recognize who each and every one of us are, and to love that. We need to have the love between people, no matter what your skin color is, no matter where you're from or what your history is. We need to have that love and that connection. And we also need to learn to listen to the youth, the young people, because a lot of the times we feel like we're left out of things, and that we're not respected in our own communities. And we have a lot to say. And like in our traditions, the youngest person is listened to as much as the older person, because the younger you are, the more close you are to Sagwayandiso, the creator. And I'd just like to thank you for inviting us here, and just to tell you, like, if you're ever around, next year we're doing the Unity Run, and we need as many elders as we can. This year, a main theme on our Unity Run was the importance of our elders, how important they are. Because we went for a period of time without our elders. A lot of elders had to leave, and there was only us left. And we realized how important our elders were when this happened, because once everybody left, and we were there, just youth, it's almost like we lost focus, and we lost what we were there for. And we started getting lost when we were running. A lot of bad things started to happen, and it showed us how important our elders were to keep with us all the time, to keep us on track, to keep us with that focus, you know. And that's what a lot of us came out with, was that message of how important it is to not only have the youth voice, but to have the elders and have that connection between the youth and the elders, which we've somehow got clouded up and somehow lost. We need to have that connection back together. And that was the purpose of the Indigenous and Youth and Elder Summit 4 years ago, and that's the purpose of the Unity Run as we're going on, is to keep that connection between communities, between youth and elders, is to keep that connection going. And so I hope that we can do that with the events like this and stuff, is to keep that connection strong. And I'd like to thank you again for having us there. So thank you.